The word which in our times has been completely misunderstood and misused. And that word is eros. The first Christian writer who speaks about the eros, the divine eros that is Dionysius Areopagite in the 5th century. A very, very important church writer from that time. He speaks about the eros and describes it as a way by which man goes out of himself, coming closer to the other human being. So he comes out of himself. Through the eros, we see the task, a divine task which has been given to us. And then there is also another word which he puts together with eros. It's the ecstasy. But we have to be very careful and have to go to the real and true original meaning of the word ecstasy. Ecstasy means being out of oneself. How and why? Under the drugs? No. Being out of myself, for I go in order to meet the other human being. With other words, I do not live anymore, like St. Paul would say. The one who wrote the most beautiful pages about the divine eros and the true eros was, with no doubt, St. Maximus the Confessor, who says that the entire rhythm of our cosmos is a erotical response to the God's act of creation. Erotical response to God's act of creation. If eros is going out of myself, if eros means entering into a true relationship with somebody else, if eros means giving myself to the other person, we will understand why is the eros the third level of that love, the level that we all have to strive to. And especially us who live in the holy estate of the marriage. Yes, there were some times in the history of the church that some fathers, some monks, some priests spoke about the marriage, spoke about the sexual relationships, everything which had to do with the human sexuality was a big no-no. But in one of the oldest Christian texts, in the Shepherd, written by Yerma, Pastir, he said, pleasures are able to save the people. Pleasures are able to save the people. What do you think? Why has he said something like that? Because we have been created after the image and likeness of God. Image was given to us, and likeness is the task which is ahead of us. We all have to become like God. We all have to enter into the process of deification. The contemporary psychology speaks about the process of individualization. For us Christians, that's the process of deification, becoming like God. For he has said, be ye perfect as your heavenly Father is. In order to achieve all those tremendously beautiful tasks, I see the relationships within the marriage and within the family as a unique Olympic Games. Now, do we have to compete? Oh yes. But we have to apply the only blessed way of Christian competition. And the only blessed way of Christian competition, if you wish, the only way which is allowed, the only way of competition which is allowed, is to compete against oneself. To try to be better than I was yesterday. Every other form of competition is not Christian. Because if we enter into any other form of competition, we tend to judge. And if we start judging, then we take upon ourselves the role which is not ours, period. And of course, like the regular Olympic Games, these Olympic Games of mine also have the 5 Olympic circles. And now listen what they are. Commitment, relationship, responsibility, forgiveness, and revelation. Why in this order? Commitment, relationship, responsibility, forgiveness, and revelation. And everything being embraced by love, by our process of deification. First of all, we speak about the commitment. What is the commitment? The only Christian way of explaining commitment is a willingness even to be unhappy for a while for the benefit of the others. Willingness even to be unhappy for a while. I remember that in our famous seminary in Sremski Karlovci, back in the times when that school was really famous school, between the First and the Second World War, the ethics was taught by the famous Russian Professor Nil Malachov. And he used to ask the young seminarians at the very beginning of the first class of ethics, he would ask, what is the Christian marriage? And then they would recite all those forms that they have learned, those formulas rather. Well, the Christian marriage is a holy mystery, it's a union between husband and wife. No, sit down, no, sit down. Holy marriage is, no, sit down. And then he said, children, the marriage is a permanent endeavor. And really, marriage is a permanent endeavor. And when we speak about endeavors, how could we avoid the commitment? Commitment, first of all, that we have established between us